Hi everyone, my name is Nona Melkonian and I'm joined by three experts and leaders in their respective fields of law, and we're here today to discuss the recent LA wildfires and answering a lot of questions that you may all have during these uncertain times. With me is Harut Keosian of Keosian Law, Danny Abir of Acts Law, and Steve Vartazarian of the Vartazarian firm. Thank you all for joining me today and making yourselves available to answer these questions. What's the first thing that people need to do when they've been displaced?
I think people are going through incredibly hard times and they're lost and they're hurting. They don't know whether their homes are intact, whether they still have a place to go to, even if it's not burnt, what the status of their home is, when they're going to be able to move in, how much longer it's going to be before they can actually move back into their homes, who's going to help them, who's going to pay for the new home that they're going to have if they're going to have to be away from their home. And there are a lot of questions that are going through their heads. I have family and friends who've lost everything they had in Malibu, Palisades, and Eden Fire. So my heart goes out to everybody. We are here to try to at least shed some light on what are the things you could be doing on your own, what are the things that can help you along the way in terms of being able to have the insurance company try to put you in the position you were in before, and how can we help you along the way.
Yes, it's definitely a very, very terrible thing that's going on in our city. I think the biggest problem is the fear of the unknown. And, we feel for everyone. And like Danny said, we're here to help. And we've done this collaboration to get the best possible, give the best possible advice to the clients and help them out.
And we really appreciate your time today. I mean, like you said, it's an unknown time and people have so many questions. Where do they even begin? What are the questions they should be asking? Who do they turn to?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there. And so for starters, people want to know what they should do. Should they hire an attorney? Should they do it themselves? Who's responsible? Who's going to pay for their harm? And so on and so forth. And so what we're telling people at the inception is this: know what you have lost, right? You want to know what you have lost. For those people that at least they have an awareness, like they've lost their homes either fully or partially, know what you have lost. Some of them don't even know what happened. They're not even allowed back into their neighborhood so they can take an inventory of their belongings and figure out what happened. And that unknown is also very hurtful. But for both these groups of people, whether you know what you have lost or haven't, begin making a list. Educate yourself as to what you have a right to recover. And at first instance, I will tell you, personal belongings, you want to start there. Those are easy. Clothing, electronics, furniture, kids' toys, or whatever it is, valuables, family heirlooms you weren't able to collect and take with you if you had the time to evacuate, things of this nature. We tell people, go through your videos, go through your photos, spend just like an hour and make an inventory, a mental checklist of every room in your home or wherever have you that you have valuables that may have burned. Make a list of what those are, because the insurance companies are going to want to know that. That's the first thing that they're going to ask for, in addition to secondarily living expenses. Whatever living expenses you've been incurring, hotel bills, or if you're living with somebody else and there's meals or whatever you're incurring that you would not have had this not occurred. Make a list of those, keep the receipts, because those two are compensable, and you need to have that at your fingertips when you begin to make a claim, however you choose to do that. And I know we're going to talk about that here in a moment.
And then the other part of it, like Steve said, we're talking about alternative living arrangements to be able to put yourself in a position where you actually have rent to pay, a place to basically call home, to the extent that you can't go back into your home. The governor of California just informed everybody that the cleaning up the debris is going to be a 6 to 9 month process, potentially 9 to 12 months. Just think about that. That means that even if you haven't lost your home completely and it's a partial loss, you're going to be living in a zone where debris are going to be cleaned up. You're going to have more soot and ash that's going to create more destruction to your property while you're going on. This doesn't even touch the potential damages that you're going to have to your health, breathing in, and all that information, all that stuff that goes with that. But dealing with the insurance company and the carriers to be able to help you at least put things in perspective is going to be probably the most difficult part of this.
I think that's going to be definitely the most difficult part, only because what happens in these situations is, the burden, yes, the insurance company is there. It's your insurance company. You've probably paid premiums to these companies for years and years, if not, decades. And now is the time where, people are going to need them. And are they going to step up or not? Based on our experience, we've seen that, yes, at some point in time they will step up, but that takes a lot of time and effort. It's not a simple process. It's a very difficult thing to do, especially when you're in such a vulnerable stage, and you just have to do as best as you can. And this is going to be a very fluid situation. Every day things are going to change. Every day you're going to remember new things. And you have to start gathering proofs of things that you've, and I know this is it might sound a little premature, but you have to, whether it's your shopping lists that you've gone, you have memberships at different stores, and you can go back, a printout of everything you purchased in the last 5-10 years or whatever the case is. These different kinds of things that you need to do to make those lists.
It's never too soon to begin gathering the information. Of course, there may be some time limitations in your respective policy that require you to make a claim within a certain period of time, or there may not be. So one of the things that you want to do is get your policy reviewed. Get it reviewed by somebody who does exactly this. And this is why we took 3 big law firms here in LA and we brought them all together so that we can cover from A to all the way through, if there needs to be litigation. Hopefully there won't need to be, but we anticipate that they will, and we're going to talk about that. But get your policy reviewed by somebody who knows how to review it. If you look at some of the homeowners policies, they're dozens of pages long. And even as lawyers, if you're not geared in this form of property damage and representing people against their insurance companies or with their insurance companies, you're not going to know how to make heads or tails of that. You could start reading 2-3 pages, even if you're a sophisticated attorney. For instance, on my way over here, we were asked to come here this morning. Everyone's advertising. Everyone wants to help people.
And some of it's pro bono.
Some of it may be pro bono, but we'll address that. But my thought about it is this: you have different areas of law that people practice in, such as car accidents, such as wills and trusts, bankruptcy, immigration, and by nature, attorneys are good-hearted. They want to help people, and that's why we came into this profession. But sometimes you need to stay within your area of specialty so you don't actually make the claim more difficult for the insurance company to understand. If you know how to submit it, like our firms do as a collaborative effort here, it may be a problem. So what you need to do is get it reviewed by people like us. This collaboration, like I said, it covers every basis from your insurance company all the way through third-party liability, such as perhaps the electrical company for for these other fires that we're going to talk about here in a moment. But that's what you need to get done.
As Steve said, there are folks who do this for a living, and this is the area that they specialize in. I was talking to a client actually over the weekend, and the person is a surgeon, and he said, I want to try to do this on my own, but I really don't know what I need to do. I gave him some tips and gave him step by step. He said, this is just too much for me. One of the things I always say to folks is do what you do best and try to bring folks who do the other thing that you're trying to learn or figure out to handle that for you, because not just under these circumstances, you're in a situation where things are coming at you from so many different directions. And at the same time, if somebody, for example, is a surgeon, while his family is going through this, he still has an operation to run with regards to his business. So the idea is he said, okay, I want somebody to handle this. what we're trying to do is at least we can give guidance as to what you need to do, but at the same time, like we mentioned, you have to make a list. Our folks are assisting people to put together a list. Our folks are assisting them in not only reaching out to the insurance company with regards to finding having them pay for a location similar to the standard of living that they're accustomed to, but to also find them a location in this jungle and what we're looking at where prices are going through the roof, and finding even things on Airbnb is almost impossible. So, and then another factor in deciding who you're going to go with and whether you go with a public adjuster or an attorney, like Steve mentioned, there's a potential third-party element to this, whereby if there is a third-party case, if there is a case where you have litigation against somebody who's a culprit or who has liability for your damages, you have to put together a damage model for that litigation. That damage model can be prepared as part of the handling of your first-party case at the beginning. So that's one of the things that goes into your case. So it's not just saying, okay, I'm going to call my insurance company and the insurance company is going to cut me a check. If that is possible, do it. But if you hit a snag, then try to go to somebody who actually can help you navigate through that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the topic of insurance and insurance companies and how they handle these cases based on our experience, and it's sad to say, but people have for many years have paid premiums. They've felt that they're secure and insured. But at the end of the day, we all know insurance companies are businesses. Okay, they're businesses. They want to pay the least amount possible, and sometimes we face not on these fires yet, but we've faced denials. Steve talked about dozens and dozens of pages of the policy that we always review these policies, and most of those pages are exclusions. Most of those pages are what they're not going to pay for and what's not covered and why it's not covered. And they make it in such a way, and they say, if this happens, then that happens, then this happens, then we might cover it. But if we do cover it, then it's just they try to confuse and mix up the issues as much as possible. So that's why we strongly believe and urge the people to seek help and seek the right help. Get the right people on board, and make sure, we're talking about different questions as to what to ask lawyers. Is this the area that they practice in? How many of these fires have they handled? How many claims have they handled? Have they done first-party claims? Have they done third-party claims? Have they done mass tort cases before? So all these things should be asked when you're interviewing your lawyers to hire, because this is your livelihood. This is people's livelihood. Okay. Obviously, there may be a personal injury component to this. We don't know that yet. There may be. People have been injured. People lost their lives. However, this is people's homes, memories. Their whole existence is gone with some of these people.
Yeah, the premiums that people have been paying on their homes for as long as they've owned them are into the tens of thousands. So let's say if there was one fire that affected one home and that was it, that's a completely different story. The insurance company may be ready to pay on that claim. But what happened here and what still is going on is not that. You have so many homes that are affected, so many structures that have burned, so many people that are affected. The insurance companies are not going to do what they usually would do if it was a single home or some home just caught on fire. That's not what's going to happen. So if you spent all these premiums over the course that you've owned your home in expectation that now all of a sudden the insurance company is going to come and tender all of the limits that you purchased and that you maintained for all these years, they're not. And on the one hand, yes, they should, but the position that they're in right now, it requires an extremely sophisticated approach on how you make your claim to your insurance company. And that's why we're here, to tell folks, be careful. If you try to do it and you don't do it correctly, those 100 and whatever pages of documents that are full of mostly of exclusions, you could cause harm to your own claim where you won't get what you're supposed to get. So you need to make sure you get either it's our firms that have come together so we can handle it, collectively as in all areas of law that come into this, or any other firm. But when you do that, make sure that they've done this before. Make sure, and you want to ask all the right questions. You want to ask them, have you represented people against their own insurance companies? That's a first party claim to obtain coverage for property damage from fire. Have you done that before? If you haven't, that may not be the right attorney for you.
So one example I'll give you that we had in a Maui case, which to this day I cannot get the picture of this out of my mind. There was a home that was a total loss. It was completely burned down. There was one column remaining. The insurance adjuster was arguing whether or not this is a total loss because of the one column that was still remaining standing. Whether or not the insurance companies are going to change their behavior with regards to the fires that we are looking at right now and the magnitude of it remains to be seen. This is not about scaring anybody. This is not about trying to say, oh my God, you're going to lose this deadline, that deadline. That's not what we are trying to do. Just realize that the insurance companies are not in the business of paying. They're in the business of collecting premiums. There are deductibles, like you mentioned, that are going to be part of this. There's with regards to your items and personal belongings, or if you have a partial loss, there's depreciation involved with things. They're supposed to put you in the position where you were before, pre-loss condition. But if for example, your flooring was not brand new and they're not going to be able to replace it because now you can't find it. And also, again, there's going to be a whole bunch of different things involved with regards to pricing. Today, after these fires, everything is going to go through the roof with regards to pricing. How are you going to replace things, whether it's your flooring or your furniture or whatever it is, it could be impacted by this. So it's not just as simple as going to the insurance company and getting a check for your total loss of your property. Also remember, when you get a check for the loss of your property, there's a deduction with regards to your land. Land is not part of what you're going to get back. How are you going to use that to rebuild what you had? Then there's another nuance, which is something that all the conversations I've had over the past 3 days and we've had over the past few days, there are folks who are underinsured because they were dropped by all these insurance companies over the past year, especially in the Palisades. They went to California Fair Plan. California Fair Plan has a cap limit as to how much they're going to insure. There are a lot of homes that were valued much higher, they were purchased much higher, and now they're going to get a much lower, what they're going to get is the policy limit, and the policy limit is below their mortgage. That check that they get from California Fair Plan is going to have the bank's name on it. So let's go through an example. You have a $3 million home where you had $1.5 million of insurance on. And the check is going to be $1.5 million. Let's assume you get the policy limit. And let's say your mortgage was 50%. So you actually owe $1.5 million to the bank. The bank, under your deed of trust, is going to say, that money is mine. They need to be reimbursed for that. Now, whether the state of California, whether the federal government is going to come in and say, hey, you have to work with your borrowers and the homeowners to try to help rebuild this, that's a whole different story. But that's one of the things with regards to first party is that the check, because the insured is not just the homeowner. If you have a bank and you have a mortgage, the insured is both the bank as well as the homeowner. So they're both going to be on that check, and how the bank is going to interact with you on that is a whole different story. So there's a lot of nuances that go into this that you have to be aware of, whether you're handling this yourself, or you get the help of a public adjuster, or you get the help of an attorney, or you get a help of some entity, someone who's going to help you. All of these factors have to be taken into consideration in order to help you. It's not as simple as, hey, insurance company, here's my property, I lost everything, cut me a check for the policy limit. And then there's also, it's not just a portion of the property that you lost. They have to pay you, hopefully under your policy, where are you going to live? How are they going to cover you? If the debris cleanup is 6 to 9 months, what are you going to do during that period?
Yeah, what are you going to do during that period, and then what are you going to do during the period of repairs? Because your ALE, your additional living expenses, is limited. So, well, what if 6 to 9 months of debris removal is going to, and then it's going to trigger the permitting process and architectural project, drawing, structural engineering, and then by the time you start building, you're going to, run out of ALE money. So these are all things that you need to consider, and all these things need to be, you have to ask, and you have to rely on the help that you're getting to give you the right information. One thing, Danny, that you brought into the mix is whether you go to a public adjuster or a lawyer, and we're getting this a lot. I think it's important to know the distinction between what the two entities do. Public adjusters are basically exactly what it means, adjusting. Their job is to come in and adjust the loss and assess the damages and prepare estimates and submit it to the insurance company. However, they're not litigators, they're not lawyers. So when we talked about the first party case and third party cases, the reason why it's important to have, at least it's our opinion that it's important to have a lawyer on board from the get-go, is because the damage assessment that gets done in the first party case is going to basically impact any potential third party cases. So if you go in there with just enough, let's say, to get your insurance limits, but then your damages are actually way more than that, then if you only submit your limits damages, then you're going to jeopardize your third party case, because that's where we're going to go after the difference of your damages. So like Danny said, by the way, we're getting a lot of people who are underinsured. I think Danny's going to touch up on that, the agent issues, potential agent broker issues. But a lot of people are underinsured. So if we can't recover the full extent of the monies from your insurance company, we have to pursue the third party, and we are going to pursue.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that
third
here
party,
in a
and
minute.
then Steve's going to address that as well. So again, public adjusters, some of them are really good. We've dealt with some of them. I know Danny, you've dealt with them. I know Steve knows a lot of them. Some of them are really good, but again, this is something that Steve, he was right on point. He said, this is not a one-off case. It's not like you had one fire. It's not like you had a water loss, and all of a sudden you hire an adjuster. They come, they write an estimate, negotiate with the insurance company, and you're done, right? This is a very, very lengthy. This is going to take a lot of time to get this done from start to finish. First party, third party, litigation. I mean, this could take a lot of time. And unfortunately, public adjusters, yes, they can adjust, they can give you the numbers, but generally speaking, they're not the advocates, right? So that's why you need to have a team of lawyers, and like we said, we've created this collaboration, and we bring the entire spectrum to this. And because our firms do this kind of work, we have our adjusters as well. We have our in-house adjusters. We have our experts that we hire. Whatever the insurance company brings to the table to assess your damage, we have the counter to that. So they bring an adjuster, we bring an adjuster. They bring an arborist, which is going to be another problem issue with all these trees and vegetation and landscaping. We bring our arborist. They bring hygienists, we bring hygienists. So you have to go head to head with tit for tat with these guys. Otherwise, they're going to just walk all over you. They're going to say, oh, well, our expert came out and said, this is it. And if you have nothing to counter that with, you're going to be just sitting there and saying, oh, well, my insurance company didn't pay me, or they paid me, but they didn't pay me enough. So these things are all very, very critical to start from the beginning, because I can't even imagine how many times we've come in either halfway through or after the claim has been opened, after some submissions have been made, and then we have to go back. We dealt with this a lot on the Woolsey fire cases. People tried to do a lot of these on their own. They unfortunately created a very not so unpleasant situation for their claim, and then we have to come in and we have to go back and fix it. A lot more time, effort, energy, money. Experts had to go into it halfway through because of what they had done, what they had not done properly from the get-go. So again, we cannot stress how important it is to do this right, to do it from the beginning, to do it right for the first time, so that this entire domino can fall into its place.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say about what people should know what your deductible is. A lot of people don't know that. They forgot. You purchased coverage a long time ago. You don't even know what your deductible is. You don't remember. So there's ways that you can find out. You can log on to whoever insures you. You can go to the portal there. You can put in your policy number or your name or your address in some instances so you can know what your deductible is. Once you do that, then at that point, you're going to know how much money you're going to need in order to make the claim. So that's number one. The other thing is you need to know that what you're entitled to if you've been displaced from your home and you've been evacuated, like Hart mentioned, you don't know how long you're not going to be at home. You don't know if your home burned to the ground, partial damage. Some do, some don't. But what you need to know is that you are entitled to live in what's called normal standard of living that you're used to. You're entitled to that. And so if you lived in a 3-bedroom home with a pool, let's say, for instance, with a backyard and so on, the insurance company has to provide you with the same form of provisions that you are accustomed to. That's part of most policies, so you need to know that. All right, having said all that, let's talk about why we're here and what this collaboration is about and why law firms are getting together to provide support for this. So, as a homeowner, if your home has been burned to the ground and it's a full loss, hopefully that's not the case, but if it is, there is a certain form of coverage that your insurance company is going to provide you. If your home has been partially burned, that is a completely different story. That requires, as Harit mentioned, an inspection, so many different things, and the insurance company is going to fight you on that. Now, the way that those losses are handled is important. Our law firms do all 3 of these different forms of things: full loss, partial loss, make sure that the insurance company is giving you all the provisions that are in your contract. But more importantly, we need to know what the value of your loss is. We need to know that. Why is that important? Let me tell you why it's important. So third-party liability is different than first. First-party liability, you were in contract with your insurance company. That's somebody that you're in contract with. Third party is you are suing some other entity, such as Edison, for instance, for allegedly starting the Eaton fire. That's a third party claim. So what you can do is file a lawsuit if you live in the Eaton fire area, Pasadena, Altadena, or wherever have you, because we believe that due to their own neglect in the manner in which they maintain their power grids, and so on and so forth, some of those towers were arcing, some of them were sparking, some of the conductors were malfunctioning, and they knew that going into the fire that this is a potential. That's the cause of the fire. So why is that important? My expertise is governmental liability. It's also suing third parties, and we're going to talk about the Palisades fire. But what I do is I find out the cause of the fire, and as this collaboration was put together, while our respective firms are handling your case against your insurance company, what I'm doing on your behalf, and what we're all doing here, we're trying to find out what Edison did to cause this fire or contribute to its cause or make the harm much worse. And as we figure that out, we need to make sure that what's being submitted to your insurance company is accurate, it's built up correctly, it's handled correctly. It's called the damages model. What is that? The fullest extent of what you've lost. When I sue Edison on your behalf for starting the fire, I need this information. So if you went and hired a public adjuster or somebody else, they don't know that you also have this claim against your, this Edison or whatever have you. So they're not taking all that into consideration. All they want to do is submit your estimate for your property damage, get you paid, and move on. But the reason all 3 of us are here is because we're handling not only the insurance portion, but also any and all claims against Southern California Edison, for instance, or perhaps governmental liability for unpreparedness for the cause or contribution to the cause of the Pacific Palisades fire. So we're doing from A to Z, and that's what distinguishes us from anyone else that's volunteering to help, at least so far, from what I've seen. So that's why this collaboration is so important.
One of the things that Steve was talking about with regards to third party, another potential third party, like we talked about, there are a lot of homes that are underinsured. And the reason they're underinsured may be multiple things, but to the extent that the being underinsured involves the broker and the level of insurance the broker had you get a certificate for, could lead to broker negligence. And your insurance broker could potentially have liability with regards to any shortages or any lack of insurance that you would have in order to, if you're underinsured. So that's one of the things that somebody who's going to look at it from the very beginning can look at and see if there's a potential for broker negligence at that point. And if there is, then go after your insurance broker for the insurance for being underinsured, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I'll address that a little bit. Maybe your insurance coverage, in most instances, it may not be enough. So you ask yourself, your home is worth $1 million. Why is my insurance coverage only worth $500,000? Why are my limits half that? Let's say, just as an example, your broker from whom you purchase coverage is considered a fiduciary. What does that mean? They have the utmost duty to you to protect you in exchange for the premiums that you pay. That's what they're supposed to do when they bind coverage. And so what they're supposed to do in that endeavor is this. They're supposed to evaluate the entirety of your home, the property, the land, whatever have you. In some instances, you know, they're supposed to conduct an appraisal, and they're supposed to value your land and your dwelling or whatever it is in combination. Your home is worth $3 million. And what they're supposed to tell you is, I am going to sell you $3 million worth of insurance. I need you to know that that's what you need to buy if you want to. They need to offer it to you. And if they don't offer it to you and you end up, you know, having a discrepancy on the value of your home whereby, you know, it's worth $3 million to rebuild it and get back to your life, but you only bought $1 million and you're scratching your head wondering, why did I not have that additional $2 million? If your broker didn't tell you that you needed that, you could sue them for that to make up for that difference that you get from your insurance company versus, you know, the complete value of your home. And again, I want to stress the importance of why we combined 3 law firms that are, you know, stellar in the community to conduct these claims, because we cover the whole gambit on this, and not many people are going to be able to do that, I would say.
But with regards to third party, it gets even more complicated, or there is another fault to this. There are brokers who've actually issued certificates, but the person doesn't have insurance. There's a certificate of insurance, but the insurance company was never involved. So the person is uninsured. We've had cases like that that have come to us. So again, this is a very complicated area of law. In the past, we've had multiple lawyers as clients for their first-party case, because first-party insurance is not like third-party insurance. There are a lot of nuances. There are a lot of rights that insureds have under the insurance code that most lawyers are not familiar with. So just, you have to know what your rights are. If you have questions, call somebody who is an insurance lawyer, ask for advice. Ask somebody to review your insurance policy to make sure you know what your rights are. It's really, really, really important for you to know what your rights are under your insurance policy.
And frankly, that's exactly what we've been preaching for years now, and we I know you guys do it too, and we've offered this service to everybody. Whether you're a client, existing client or not, send us your policy, let us review, and you know, now the time has come where when they didn't do it, and now they're like, oh man, I wish I did.
So I'll bet you've gotten this before, but it's my insurance company.
Yeah.
They're on my side. What is the line that they say? Like a good neighbor, or we're gonna be there for you.
Until you make a claim.
But how many times have you actually had a client that says, but it's my insurance company, why do I need somebody to represent me? And that's the thing. And I've actually joked back saying, When was the last time your insurance company took you out to lunch? And I've had folks who actually have paid premiums for years and years and years. But then they're like, okay, you're supposed to cover me now. But then they come up with exactly what Harut said. That policy that is this thick, and this thick, except for one page of it, is exclusions. Or there are things that they are not covering, and then you're going to have basically your policy of the insured being left holding the bag because they think that, oh my God, my insurance company is supposed to cover me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just to add to that, and I'll tell people that have been displaced and they're wondering what to do with respect to their homes. If some of you have ever been involved in a car accident, let's say, where you were rear-ended, you had to hire a lawyer. You had to figure out the person who hit you, what their insurance covered, provided for, what your insurance, and so on and so forth. How hard was that, right? Took a year and a half. You had injuries and so on and so forth. This is it's similar to that, except it's 10 to 20 times, if not more, complex and more involved. And that's why it requires lawyers who have specialties in so many different areas, so you can you can have the full extent of your recovery or whatever have you. It's that complicated. It's that complicated. And the reason why we're sitting here at this table collaborating as law firms, which I haven't heard of, for the most part, with these fire claims, is to provide you with every single thing that you need, from dealing with your insurance company all the way to possibly holding Edison responsible if that's the cause of this Eaton fire, or perhaps governmental unpreparedness with respect to the Palisades fire. This is going to take a long time, and you want to make sure that you come to one firm, which, as I keep mentioning, is this collaboration, who can help you from beginning to end, who's going to know your story with the insurance company, who's going to know what you lost, who's going to know if you were breathing air that had particulate matter from the fires that is going to be injurious to you for a long term. I tell people, go to airnow.gov and enter your city, enter your zip code, and you could find the particulate matter in the air for the given day. If it's 50 parts per million or more, it could be dangerous to you, especially if you have young ones. You got to keep them away. You have to, parents, be conscious of air quality and so on. But there's so much more to it than the loss of your home. There's the loss of your health. There's a potential for injury to children who were so young, and as their lungs were growing, they're breathing now. If you've been displaced and you had no choice but to breathe this air, we can help you with that. We could tell you at least what your rights are. Either our firm or any way that you want to do it, you need help and you need to know what your rights are.
Yeah, it really is a complex situation. We've never seen anything like this in LA. So to have this information is incredibly invaluable. So thank you all for your time. If you'd like more information, we're going to provide resources and ways to help. But thank you all for tuning in. For more information, call 818-CALFIRE or visit calfireclaims.com.